In this lesson, we'll learn how to start drawing in AutoCAD. All right, so now let's start drawing in AutoCAD. Now that we know where all the tools are, how everything is broken down, we've got a good idea of how all that works. Let's get our hands dirty and let's start making something happen here. So I'm going to, as I showed you earlier, I'm going to jump to the top view here. Let's jump. Here we go. As if I'm looking down at my sheet of paper. And I'm going to scroll here to where I can see what I'm working with. So if I wanted to draw a line, how do I go about doing that in AutoCAD? It's the most simple function to get started in anything is getting that first line drawn. Well, you'll notice here in my model workspace, we have this big plus, or it looks like a crosshair, and that's exactly what it is. It's a crosshair. In the middle of that crosshair is where the tip of my pen is, in a way to speak. So what I can do, if I wanted to start drawing lines, under my Home tab, and here in my Draw panel, I'll go to Line, and what happens is the very beginning of my line is automatically attached to the end or the middle of this crosshair, so I can go from point A to point B, and I can hit Escape 2 times, and it'll clear that command for me. I always hit it twice just to make sure I cleared it. So what we did is we just drew a simple line. Let's do it one more time. So I'm going to go Line. And this time I want to specify distance. So I can specify my first point. And let's say I want to move in this direction. I want to move, we'll say 18 feet. And my drawing units are set to decimal. So if I put in 18, hit Enter, and I'll hit Escape to clear out of the command, I've just drawn a line that's 18 units. Now, what are units? Well, when you're working in AutoCAD, you can set your units to a number of templates. So if I want to access my units, what I need to do is type in a command. Now, a command, what is a command? Where's a command? The command line. You may have heard me mention it earlier. Well, the command line is right down here. Now, we didn't jump into that when we were looking at our panels because we wanted to know where all our tools are. And you really don't use this until you start drawing. So we can either draw things and create things using our buttons and icons up here, or we can use the command line. And as you get more and more familiar with AutoCAD, you can start just typing in commands that you want to do. So when I drew that line earlier, I typed in, or I clicked on line. Well, if I wanted to do a command, I can do L-I-N-E. And the nice thing is, let's say I just type in L, AutoCAD will bring up a number of functions or commands that start with L. So you don't have to have everything memorized to begin with. It'll bring it up. I can highlight it and click it with my mouse, or I can just spell it out completely. Line, hit Enter, and now I'm ready to draw a line. So I can pick my starting point, draw it in the direction I want to do it here. This time we'll say 20, hit Enter, and it'll automatically draw it out 20. So again, you can either draw it by clicking your end point or your start point and your end point, or you can click your start point, specify distance, hit Enter, and that's how you can go about drawing lines. Pretty simple stuff. So, as I mentioned earlier, we had units. So I want to adjust my units. So an architect may use a certain kind of units in his drawing. An engineer may want to use more decimal for precision. So if I wanted to access units, I'd have to type in that units command like we just learned about commands. So I could type in units. So I'll go U-N-I-T-S, Enter. This will bring up my drawing units. So right now, as I mentioned, it's set to decimal. So if I go to this drop down for my length, I have architectural, decimal, engineering, fraction, scientific. I'm going to switch mine to architectural. And that way, it'll be represented this way. So feet and inches. And inches, if they're fractions, they'll represent it as fractions instead of decimals. I can also specify my angle. I'm going to keep this the same because I don't mind having decimal degrees, but if I wanted to, you could switch it up to radians and whatever you want here. So this will be the sample output. So this shows how it would look. So for instance, if I wanted to make a line that's 3 inches at 45 degrees, you can do 3 inches, and then 45 degrees will be represented like that. So I like to have my units set to architectural. It's mostly what I work in is an architectural setting, so I can press OK. And now when I draw that line again, I can click, and you'll notice a difference. There's no decimal. It's 1 foot, 1 inch. Now, if I were to type in 18 like we did earlier, 18, that's what it'll do for me. It'll give me 18 inches. Easy as that, working with my units. So you'll also notice some of the behavior that's associated with when I'm drawing lines. So if I'm drawing a line here, we'll go back to our line button there. You'll notice I'm kind of snapping here. Well, I can control that snap. Right now, it's basically snapping to points so I can get a certain kind of precision here. So instead of infinite points, it basically snaps at certain intervals. So if I wanted to change that, I can come over here to our snap settings, and we could turn the snap on or off simply by going here, or you'll notice we can just hit F9. So I'm going to do that, and now when I draw a line, I get more of a smooth movement. But now I'm restricted. I can only move up, to the right, down, or left. I don't have that infinite motion, and that's just because I'm kind of locked in, or my snaps are set for my polar movement here. So if I want to change that, I could simply come here and click on this, my ortho mode. So I'll click on ortho, the icon down here, or I can hit F8. We'll hit it there. Now when I try to draw a line, no more jittery snapping because we got rid of that snap, and we also got it out of ortho mode. Now ortho mode is awesome because it helps you get those 90-degree lines if you're working with a lot of 90-degree things. So it has a purpose, and you can turn it on and off as you're drawing. Maybe you need your crazy angle here, maybe you need something like that, but then you want to jump back into ortho because you may have a more boxy area within your drawing. You can just do that by hitting F8. So I'll clear out of that really quick. So we know how to draw lines. We know how to set our units for our drawing. How do we erase stuff? So if I want to select on any of these lines, I simply click on it, and it automatically highlights it in sequence. So I don't need to highlight it and hold Control to select several. I can just keep clicking, and it'll select it. Now, if I hold down Shift and select any of those elements, I can deselect. Clicking back on will select. If I hold down Shift over the element, it'll actually show you what it's doing. So it'll show you that I'm taking it away. So if I want to get rid of it, I can either hit my erase button. It'll get rid of that. Or you could right click and access your erase command, which will be one of your quick commands in here. And if I wanted to repeat that, I can click that again, and I can erase any of these guys and hit enter. So using that right click allows you, one, to access really quick, easy commands that you normally always use, or you can access a command you just used. So there's a look at how we can basically get started drawing lines. We know how to draw them kind of organically by clicking a start point and an end point. We know how to draw them by specifying a distance. If I want to start at one point and I want to go out 18 feet in that direction, we know how to do that. So in the next lesson, we're going to take a little more in-depth look at working with lines. We're going to find out how to specify some more distances and angles. And we'll also take a look at how we could start to modify some of the line work we're putting into our drawing here. So I'll meet you in the next lesson.